Halos hindi matalo ngayong season ng defending NBA champions na Golden State Warriors na malapit na ma-break ang 72-win record ng 1995-1996 Chicago Bulls. Pero bakit marami pa ring duda sa kakayahan nila Stephen Curry and company? Kabilang na sa critics ng Warriors ay ang ilang NBA legends tulad nila Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at Oscar Robertson na nagsasabing mahihirapan manalo ang team ni Curry kung naglaro sila nung panahon na physical talaga ang laro at magagaling gumawa ng defensive schemes ang mga coaches. Gaano ito katotoo? Para sa usapan na yan, kasama natin ang basketball analyst at blogger na si Enzo Frojo. Enzo, welcome back to the score. Good to see you. Okay, una-una, ano naging reaction mo nung humirit na sila Lolo Kareem at Lolo Oscar dun sa ginagawa ngayon nila Curry at ng Warriors?
Well, I mean, these are great players, no?
Okay.
These are some of the greatest players ever in the history of the game, not just the league, no? But you kind of get the feeling na may parang konting bitterness yata yung mga yung tone ng mga legends, si Kareem, si Oscar
But
Robertson.
they have great achievements way beyond what the Warriors have done
I mean,
so far.
even Charles Barkley's chimed in, and so many other players. Feeling ko kasi, what the Warriors are doing is just so unimaginable, so unprecedented na so many people nagugulantang sila na how can this be? How can a jump shooting team not only win the championship but actually realistically probably be able to break the greatest win-loss record in the history of the NBA? It's unfathomable for a lot of these players. So, kasi nung time nila, it was just impossible for that to happen.
At
So
saka ibang-iba yung laro.
Oo,
So yun yung punto nila.
Yeah.
Kung na-transplant mo yung Warriors ngayon, if they wrote a time machine and they became the Warriors back then in the 80s or probably even the early 90s where defenses were more physical and it was more of a focused defensive game than, as they argue, than it is today. Kaya ba nilang maging ganito ka-dominant sa tingin mo?
I think it's to be very dominant. Would they be able to win or be on pace for 70 wins? I'm not so sure about that. But I think we have to give the Warriors a lot of credit. No? I mean, and we shouldn't say na teams right now don't know how to play defense because if you see how so many teams are playing the Warriors, they're throwing everything at Golden State.
Lahat ng pwede nila magawa defensive.
I mean,
They've tried it.
They're trying to shadow Steph Curry. They're trying to make Festus Ezeli or Andrew Bogut beat them. But kahit anong gawin ng mga teams na to, ang Golden State, they just find so many different ways to be able to win basketball games. And you have to give Golden State, their coaching staff, and all the players there that credit. No, I think if you put them in the 90s, where illegal defense was a big thing.
Yun, that's one thing.
And you had
talk about the
handshaking.
rules. Ang laki ng pinagbago ng rules.
So if let's say if you put the Golden State Warriors in the 90s, so may illegal defense, tapos yung handshaking was allowed, I think mas mahirapan sila. To be completely honest, no, and you had more physical play. Charles Oakley ka against Draymond Green, may Dennis Rodman ka. Mas mahirapan ang Golden State. But will they be a bad team? Will they be a mediocre team? I don't think so.
Ay, yun ang sinabi na they would be a bad team?
I think kasi what these legends are insinuating is we'd beat them. Well, we'd beat them by 100. We'd beat them easy. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think these Warriors...
I agree. They'll still be a good team. Pero will they be as dominant as they are today?
That would be very difficult. Again, I mean, if you have Steph Curry again in the 90s, so he's going to be competing against Michael Jordan and Karl Malone and Charles Barkley. They're going to hurt the Warriors bad.
Ito na, diretso na sa usapan. Doon na tayo patungo and people already started to talk about this. Let's compare the 95-96 Bulls to this Warriors team. In a dream matchup, I'm sure people have done this on 2K16. I'm sure may gumawa na nito. Pag tinapat mo yung lineup na yun, and in that era, not in this era, in that era, play their game, play the Bulls game, play that NBA game back in the 90s, ano kaya mangyayari? Paano yung matchups na yun?
I think, to be quite honest, definitely, obviously, it'll be a very exciting game. I mean, you have two versatile teams, two teams na, you have players who can play multiple positions. And what I tweeted earlier this morning, I think if you put the Bulls and the Warriors in one court, you have 10 players switching on defenses because that's how good they are. I think if we play by the 90s rules, I think the Bulls have a slight edge. Simply because they're going to be very physical against Golden State. They might rattle some of the players of the Warriors. I think it'll be very close. But I think, Jordan will still be able to will the Bulls into
can
that
Klay Thompson
victory.
stop Michael Jordan?
I don't
or
think
Andre
so.
Iguodala
I don't
stop
think
Michael
so.
Jordan?
I don't think so.
Okay, no.
I mean, they're very good defensive players. Maybe two of the best today, but against MJ, I mean, MJ's just so crafty and he's so deceivingly strong. I think he'll be able to handle those two guys.
On the other side, can Steph Curry be guarded by a guy named Steve
Yun
Kerr?
lang.
It's kind of weird because
That's
that's
the
his
irony
coach.
there.
But yeah.
So, si Steve Kerr nga in-interview siya, I think, late 2015 about
Okay.
this, when Golden State went 15-0 to start the season.
Okay.
Parang, he was interviewed, parang, would your Bulls be able to beat Golden State? And he was saying something like, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to guard Steph, one-on-one.
Inamin niya,
Kasi,
kaya. Okay.
I mean, you have Ron Harper, Steph Curry, Randy Brown.
Oo.
Kung sino man yung point guard
They'll
ng
probably
Bulls.
put Randy Brown. That's the quickest guy I can imagine.
I think they'll probably switch on him. They'll probably put
Oh.
Harper there, then some Brown and some Pippen
Or
even.
maybe in the end game, Jordan.
Yes, but I think even Jordan and Pippen,
Yeah.
I think may hirapan sila. Kasi
Okay.
nakita natin, the modern day Scottie Pippen, si Kawhi Leonard, nahirapan siya kay Steph Curry.
Tama, pinahiya niya eh.
So
Oo.
I think even Scottie Pippen would have a very difficult time against
Okay.
Steph Curry.
All right. The big men, the big man game. Dati, they had bigs. They had Horace Grant.
Yeah.
They had Dennis Rodman. Although they played the triangle offense, they weren't really a post-up big
Yes.
man style. Pero today, yung Warriors, small ball.
Yeah.
Anthony Iguodala, kuma-4, minsan sumi-5. Draymond Green, 4-5. Paano magtatapat yung mga yun?
I think Phil Jackson, if he went up against a team like Golden State at that time, he'd be willing to go small ball. And I think he did that a few times also. I mean, don't forget, you have a guy named Tony Kukoc coming off the bench, about 7 feet, practically 6'10", 6'11",
Oo nga,
stretch
no?
4.
Yeah.
So they could afford to go small ball and match up with the Warriors in that manner. That's what made those Bulls so great, because they could adjust to so many kinds of other teams.
Okay.
And that's also what makes the Warriors so great right now, because they can adjust as well. So it'd be a very, very good chess game between Phil Jackson and the present-day Steve Kerr.
Okay.
That would be very, very interesting.
Okay, so moving forward to today, I mean, we saw it last 2 years ago na nanalo yung Spurs. Everybody said, okay, that's the way to play championship basketball pala. So everybody started to want to do more ball spacing, ball movement, and even the Cavs tried to retool around that method. But now what the Warriors are doing, are they redefining the NBA game in this 2016 onwards?
I think they're redefining it in such a way that all the other teams are now forced to rethink how they build their teams. Because before, they were building their teams, like what you said, Teach, to counter San Antonio.
Yes.
Now, they have to build it around countering Golden State, especially if you're in the Western Conference.
Right.
So that's how they're changing. That's how the Warriors are changing the game. Are the other teams capable of playing like Golden State? I'm not sure that's the way to go. Because if a team like, say, Sacramento tries small ball to get rid of DeMarcus Cousins and they play like Golden State, that's going to be disaster for that team.
Correct.
One of the main reasons Golden State is so effective is because of Steph Curry, and he's just a once-in-a-generation talent. I mean, you saw what he did to Oklahoma City, 12 threes, that 30-footer at the end of overtime.
Parang that was longer than 30
Yeah.
feet. I'd give it 59 feet.
I think only he can do that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you put that system in another team, maybe that team will be good, but not as good as Golden State is because they have Steph Curry.
Yun na nga. So, ilagay natin yung attention kay Steph Curry. Gaano ka-special ang isang Steph Curry? Ano bang meron siya? And is it, some people like this argument, is it inborn talent? Or is it just pure hard work how this kid from a small school who used to have bad ankles all of a sudden worked so hard in his game that made himself the best player today?
I think Curry is so special. He's a special example of trying not to do too many things. I mean, he knows he's good at passing. He knows he's good at dribbling. He knows he's awesome at shooting. And he works on those strengths so that he becomes the best at those.
Okay.
So, yun yung ginawa niya. He didn't try to be the next lockdown defender like Gary Payton. He didn't try to be a super athletic guy like Russell Westbrook. No? He knows he shoots threes. He knows he can pass the ball and make plays. So that's what he's good at. That's what he really worked on. Yung ankles niya, those were a big problem his first 3 or 4 seasons.
Right.
So what he did was, if I read correctly, he fixed his core to be able to adjust to that. No?
That's right,
and his body adjusted really, really well, and now that's not a big problem for him anymore.
Correct.
So here's a guy who knows what he's good at. He keeps on sharpening his strengths and working on that one singular weakness, and he's reaping the benefits.
Magsisimula ba siya ng bagong trend or bagong uso for the GMs? Because remember, when Jordan hit his peak, everybody tried to have their own Jordan.
Yeah.
They had the Isaiah Riders,
the
the Jerry
Mitch
Stackhouse,
Richmond,
the Grant
ganyan.
Hills. Parang they wanted their two-guard superstar to
Yeah.
be their franchise player because gone were the days of the Patrick Ewings already. Ngayon na ba, ang mga teams maghahanap ng mga superstar point guards and try to mold them into Steph Currys?
I think yes, the answer is yes. But it's not just because of Steph Curry, but because of how the game is right now. It's much faster. And if you look at, the stats right now, compared to the stats ng 80s and 90s, may Jabbar ka, may Olajuwon, may Ewing na silang nagdo-dominate ng game. Right now, it's Steph Curry, it's Russell Westbrook. A few years ago, it was Derrick Rose. Right now, point guards like Isaiah Thomas, Reggie Jackson, they're stepping up. So it really is a guards game right now.
Okay. Team effort, role players, gaano kagaling din yung all the other little pieces of the Warriors, how they fit just around Curry and make them an invincible team?
Well, if you go down the line sa roster ng Golden State, you could have maybe 8 to 10 players who could be starters on other teams. It's a deep team, but hindi lang siya deep in the sense that they have a lot of talent, but they're a very well-managed deep team.
Correct.
So Steve Kerr just knows how to utilize, the strengths of a guy like Sean Livingston or Leandro Barbosa or even Festus Ezeli. So it's a well-managed, talented team.
All right. I know it's a little early, pero fearless forecast. Will they get 73-9 or better?
This will be a risky.
And take note, I've said this before, I want to say it again. Take note, they have to play the Spurs 3 times and the Thunder 1 more time. Friday, we're airing that, by the way, on Sports in Action. And the Clippers 1 more time.
March. All those in March.
Yes,
those
to finish
teams.
their last, I think, 18-20 games.
Yes.
So those opponents will be in their way.
March is going to be big because they play the Thunder, the Clippers, and the Spurs all
3 times
some
Spurs,
March.
yes, correct.
Yung Spurs, I think they finished 2 of their last 4 games are against San Antonio.
And
so that's going to be big also.
And the tricky part with the Spurs will be, magpapahinga ka na ba?
Yun nga lang.
Kung lamang na sila sa Spurs by then, na safe sa number 1, will they rest them and not go for the win?
Ang last 4 games sa Golden State are San Antonio, Memphis, San Antonio, tas Memphis, something like that. So it's going to be very difficult for Golden State. But I think a few months ago, Teach, when we first talked about the Warriors this season, we said na if they only had 5 losses entering March, we should have this conversation again.
Well, we're having a conversation again.
And I think that after 58 games in 1996, Chicago lost 6 games, and they went on to win 72 games. Right now, Golden State only has 5 losses, and I think they're on pace to win 75. I think they're going to beat the 72-10 record of Chicago. I think so.
Kung kaya'y
That's a risky
mamumusta,
statement,
you wanna go with his advice? Don't blame him, but it's sound advice. It's pinag-isipan niya. Hindi yan nag-flip ng coin. Hindi yan nagpahula sa Quiapo. Enzo, Frojo, maraming salamat. Debate with him at HoopNut on Twitter. Thank you. See you again. All right.
For more sports updates, keep watching The Score. And don't forget to subscribe.